do not care.
I do not care either. Even though it's supposed to snow like crazy. So, well, maybe not like crazy, but it's supposed to be really cold. So,
Great.
all right, we are live.
Okay.
All right, I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
Jeff, what are we doing?
This is Coffee Before Bed. This is your new favorite podcast.
Oh, I like that. We're going to have a tagline, your favorite podcast?
I think this would be like, you could change this week to week.
Well, let's try this one out and see if the numbers bump.
Well, it's sort of a ostentatious claim, so you could have people turn it off immediately. It's like, you don't have the right to tell me that.
That's true.
I'll be the one to make that decision.
Yeah.
Guy.
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking guy.
What is your favorite podcast?
To this day? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably still Tell 'em Steve Dave.
Tell 'em Steve Dave? Okay. Yeah, that one's pretty good. I haven't listened to it in a long time. So
It's past episode 500 now, so that's a daunting figure.
Well, Joe Rogan's over.
He's crested 1,000, hasn't he?
Oh, no, he's way high. I think he's over 2 now.
Oh, really?
Or if not over, he's close. I'm not sure. I kind of stopped listening to him lately. He's getting a little crazy, man. So
Crazy about what?
Oh, the COVID and the ivermectin, and the his thing now is the social media score or whatever. They think that we're going to import the Chinese social credit score here to the United States, and actually, like, I don't know, ban you from going to concerts or something if you made shitty posts on Twitter. I don't know. So,
bro, I'm not going to fight him on that. I don't think that's something that'll happen here. But there's a version of that I can definitely see, and it'll all be related to vaccinations.
You think so?
It's happening in certain places around the country.
Yeah, but like, how much legs does that have? I mean, like the whole thing with like I was reading today that the Omicron Persei 4.7 or whatever it is, 8.
Yeah.
The Omicron is actually, like, who called it a roving vaccine? I actually think it was Vladimir Putin.
That's not, well.
So I'm loath to give the man credit for, like, really kind of putting his finger on it, but
What you wanted to say was, well, anything. But yes, you're sort of, he's not wrong. I mean.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, eventually if you get to the point in time where just about everybody's inoculated against it, won't all the vaccine passport bullshit and stuff like that just become a non-issue? Is this like one of the things that will actually just die silently in the night?
Not a chance.
Why not?
Not a chance.
Why do you think it'll still be a thing even if the COVID really isn't that big of a deal?
Well, you got to focus on it now and say, all right, okay, we can argue the merits of how big of an impact the first waves were. And I think we can all safely agree that the first strains were, of course, the most dangerous based off of what we knew about how to treat it. Look, it turned out that forced ventilation was actually detrimental.
Right.
So we can take a look at that and say, like, all right, so whatever precautions you may have had, even if you went a little bit at least I could excuse it under the thumb of possibly good intentions.
Okay.
Right? Now, that being said, it's well known that the Omicron Persei 8 variant is far less deadly, and especially when it comes to people with no pre-existing conditions, and on top of that, they're coming up with treatments for it.
Yeah, they got pills coming out now, don't they?
Yeah, they've been proved. So
have they?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
They're out in limited dose, but the fact
they're
that
therapeutics, right?
don't ask me the full details
Yeah,
on it
okay.
because I'm just going to sound like an asshole if I comment.
Yeah, I don't know either.
And I don't want
just
to be in that position, but I will be.
Yeah, I was just curious if you had read something on it.
But what I will say is that there are places re-entering lockdowns, right? Places like New York, places where they are now starting to change what it, or contemplating changing what it means to be fully vaccinated. So are you fully vaccinated if you have the booster?
I don't know.
Well, as of right now, no.
Oh.
Well, as of right now, yes, you are.
Oh, okay.
If you don't have it. But now they're talking about, all right, what does full vaccination mean? It means this, plus this. bro, we've reached a point where, and look, this has certainly been a piece of this from the very start, but there's a gang of people right now that feel awesome about themselves for having done fucking nothing at all, right? And their whole approach.
Which group are you talking? Are you talking about the people who have been vaccinated or the people who have not?
I'm talking about the people who have been vaccinated, but their vindication as heroes stems from, well, I got vaccinated and I stayed home, ergo, I am a hero.
Okay.
Right? And they don't want that to end anytime soon.
Yeah, but I think it is just going to naturally play out.
It would have played out.
I don't know just quite yet, because, I mean, Delta was a thing. Omicron, a lot
Delta,
of people...
sorry to interrupt, but Delta is currently, in some places, the leading infector.
Got it. Okay.
No, that's all.
Yeah, but, like, then they thought Omicron was going to be a thing.
It is.
It is, but, I mean, I don't know. I see so many more people now who are just kind of like, oh, well, you know, I'll get it eventually anyway. And so I got the shot, or at least a shot, or I had it before, you know, and so it's not going to murder me now, kind of thing.
The data suggests that those who are vaccinated are more prone to get the Omicron variant
Than the Delta?
than the other variants.
Oh, okay.
Right? But if you get the Omicron variant, it makes you immune to other strains.
Oh, so back to Putin's quote.
So
It's a self-administering vaccine.
at this point, there comes a piece to it where you say,
Yeah.
all right, look, we are at actual normal flu territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And we
probably.
have to get on with it. And
Yeah,
look,
I think it'll probably take a little bit longer. We'll see what other kind of like variants come out, but like I don't know. I was kind of expecting some saber rattling from my school or something so far, or from at least the districts around here. I haven't heard a peep yet. So I think that, you know, the fact that like even after last year where kind of a lot of people did get their pants caught with their pants down after Thanksgiving.
Sure.
Last
Yeah.
year. Yeah. You know, that you'd at least see some preventative stuff coming out. So I'm like, well, we're going to have a meeting about this, or, well, we need to do a poll on your preferences kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen any of that.
no.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. So, like, yeah, that goes back to the point about the passport thing. I mean, how much legs does it have on it, man? So, you know, if we round the corner here and Omicron turns out to be nothing and Delta goes away slowly, thanks to the roving vaccine. I mean, will it matter if I have a vaccine next summer?
Well, therein lies the problem. This is a fundamental question of how we conduct business in the United States, right? There is a part of me that, again, I can show you my card and I can show you my shots and say, like,
Sure, yeah.
I don't care, right?
Yeah, I don't care either.
When all it comes down to it, I'm like, all right, so if this makes life easier for me or somebody else, right, I don't care, right? But at the same time, when I break it down and say, all right, well, on a fundamental level, you guys have no business whatsoever asking people to show vaccination or demanding this to keep your employment or anything like that. You're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah, I don't think any of that shit's gonna stand, though. I mean, so
It's ridiculous it was ever even suggested.
yeah, but I can see why it was suggested. So, you know, but now at this point in time, it's almost to the point where it's like, well, nobody's gonna have the power to enforce any of that. So, you know, I mean,
Well, your employers do.
well, they tried, but, you know, and the other day it got repealed or appealed again out of federal court and immediately got injunctioned again. So yeah, that's not going to happen, you know.
It can't happen.
I don't think it can.
This is a
Yeah.
fundamental liberties thing that it, frankly, Patrick, it disgusts me that people are even attempting.
I guess I don't get disgusted by it. I can see the hubris in it. But at the same point in time, I also see that anybody who tries to do that, probably past May, is basically just shooting themselves in their own foot. You know, I mean, if it comes down to it, like, people will vote with their feet. All right, they'll vote with their dollars.
They will.
Yeah, kind of like they always do, in one way or another, and then eventually they'll vote with their votes, which is the most dangerous of those three.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think. I think that there's a whole bunch of people out there who just don't want to chill the fuck out.
They never do.
Yeah, but I mean,
same people on your ring cam, dude.
Same people.
We know who they are.
Yeah.
Think about those guys go to the voting booth too.
Oh yeah, of course they do. And then they get mad if you don't. So or if they you're gonna vote for this year. It's like, oh, I haven't thought about it yet. That's like the worst way to respond to that. You really get under somebody's skin.
Yeah.
So, because they can see you as like one of two things. You can see you as completely disengaged or poo-pooing the fact that they really give a shit about it.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Which is probably the more common one. And I guess that's the one form of trolling I do engage in with some of my coworkers from time to time.
There's merit.
No, there's definitely merit in that, yeah. So... It's like, I don't know. What's going on? I haven't even heard about that. Who's president right now? I don't know. That guy? Really? Wow.
You can't be obvious about it, but if you do it right, it's just a blessing of an afternoon.
If you get the right reaction out of it.
Absolutely. But if you go in too hard, it's obvious.
Oh, they're wise to you. Yeah. Oh, I know what you're doing. You're one of them fucking Democrats. So... Yeah. I don't know. I only had one guy that I ever worked with who was really easy to troll. He was that Pocket Constitution guy.
Oh
So, yeah. He was really easy to troll on that stuff, And all you have to do is like just Google stories on the TSA and it would absolutely set them off. So
oh yeah.
The TSA is going to actually make you do this now. He was just go nuts over that shit. So
well, especially if you approach it intentionally overly diplomatically, I would say. It's like, well, why would they do that? And then you get them to explain that, and they say, I get why you're mad, but I think I can kind of see the merit of that.
Right.
I mean,
okay, see, you're better at this than I am. I've tried doing that tactic a couple times, and usually like my smile gives it away, or I get that Irish twinkle in my eye. Ooh, what do you mean by that? Explain it to me further.
You don't say.
You don't say.
Right. I know. No, if you can play into that, again, I used to do that with a pocket constitutionalist kind of guy, where like, I get what you're saying, I really do, but I mean, it's an airplane. And so while I totally understand, I just can't have the risk of somebody getting off a shot on my plane, where we're in a pressurized environment.
Right, yeah.
It's like, I just can't do it.
Yeah, I want to make sure you're licensed and trained to carry that.
And then I was like, but to me, it seems like there's a fairly square compromise where if you want your weapon, no problem. Go to the counter, check it.
Right.
It'll be waiting for you, and then we know that nobody has guns on the plane.
Right. Yeah, this seems perfectly rational.
And you just pick it up right there in the baggage claim. It's like it seems to me that they've made a pretty fair compromise about respecting your rights.
Yeah. I remember working at the airport though. So you remember you'd get gun cases and stuff. Could we check those as skycaps?
No.
That's right. Okay, so when I worked for the airline, we used to check those a lot, all right? Hunters would come through and stuff. And you always had to put that bright red, firearms enclosed tag on it.
Oh, yeah.
And people would get pissed about that. Because, of course, you go to the baggage claim, and someone's like, oh, yeah, I need a new 30-06. Yoink. So, especially if you miss your connection and stuff. And so many airports, they never check your claims. So, but I think, as far as keeping guns off the plane, it's pretty rational.
Look, and I would certainly understand the argument if they said you can't check these. Or like, well, that's not cool.
Yeah.
But if the whole thing is, look, so here's the way this works. You check your gun here, gun will travel on your plane. You can't use it, it's in the back. Okay?
Right.
But nobody gets to use theirs.
Right.
Right? Nobody does. It's like, how do you know
Right.
this?
This is holy ground.
Right. Yeah. How do
Yeah.
you know this? Well, all those machines down there, right, and all those goons, they're going to make sure no guns get on this plane, right? And I get that. And I suppose that there's a possibility, a rare possibility, that somebody could get one through. But I imagine at this point it's next to impossible. But
It's got to be really hard now.
very difficult.
Yeah.
It's not the old look. We can't talk about this. This is not smart to talk about. But we knew there were ways if you wanted
Tons
to.
of ways.
Back in the day, I mean, the worst possibly would just like, well, get a job at the airport.
Yeah,
You know,
get a job at the airport.
yeah,
They pay minimum wage. You're going to get a job if you have a pulse.
right.
Yeah.
Just
So-
have not committed crimes in the past, and
Don't reek of weed.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't.
You're
yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can tell you a million ways to have gotten those on the planes. But in this way, it's a fair compromise, and I don't have too much to complain about, right?
Right.
If the whole thing is, well, I need to be able to take it with me on the plane, I'm like,
Yeah, no. You need to be a cop then. So go to, Leo school or whatever it's called.
yeah,
So yeah, mark up.
do that. Yeah, whatever.
Because those guys were allowed to carry their guns on planes.
They were.
Yeah, I do remember that. They would come up and there was like something they had, I can't remember. All they had to do was show a badge that was legit, but then they had to book the ticket a certain way. I can't remember.
You're right.
Yeah.
I don't remember the trick on that. It came up once.
Yeah.
It came up once, but I don't remember the whole deal on it. But
I remember there was a couple times at the airport where like half the plane was fucking armed to the teeth because the president was speaking at the Air Force Academy or the vice president. And so the Secret Service, like a ton of them would fly in, all right, with the actual president. And then, of course, there was a plane that always followed behind it. They had his car and shit in it. And so that would have a bunch of them in there, too. But then a whole shitload of them would just fly in commercially, okay? And they would do so, they all dressed the same. So it was like, there's a Secret Service guy. There's a Secret Service guy.
right.
But I remember there were a couple times where, God, when was this? This must have been before 9/11. Because Bill Clinton was president, he was speaking at the Air Force Academy, and they were actually flying DC-10s between here and Chicago, so the wide bodies.
yeah.
And there was one of those planes that probably had about 30 of those guys on it, and they were all fucking armed with like Uzis and shit. And so it was like the one plane you could not hijack ever.
God, man.
I know it was kind of intimidating, but. It was interesting because we kept seeing these guys come up, and they all had these little silver like briefcases. So, and of course, that had their guns in them. So, it was crazy. So, and then the security guys came back out later, because they all smoked cigarettes, and they're like, "We've seen more guns in one day than we've seen in a decade."
Yeah, see, this is the thing sometimes, man. I kind of chuckle at this. Every now and then people talk about, of course, January 6th and all this stuff, and how unsafe it is.
January 6th.
Yeah,
the Capitol thing?
Insurrection.
Quote, insurrection?
Yeah, the greatest threat to... damn, man, this was the funny thing, was like you can't call it an insurrection because if they'd captured and held the building, that doesn't mean control of the government goes to the dude with the horns on. That's not...
It's not King of the Hill, man.
It's not a threat to
I
democracy.
know.
It's a threat to the building.
No, and I mean...
But he who controls the building does not rule the country.
No, the only thing that I, like... All right, that could have gone real south
Absolutely.
if they actually got their hands on, like, fucking Nancy Pelosi or Mike Pence. Well, they would have never gotten their hands on Mike Pence because the Secret Service would have lit him up.
Oh, yeah.
Not even... I mean, they did. They shot that one lady right between the eyes.
Yeah.
But Nancy Pelosi, maybe. I imagine she's got Secret Service protection too. So
She does.
yeah,
Of course. If you're in
But
Congress,
if you got like one of the Elon Komar or something like that, one of the squad, if you got your hands on AOC, she'd be fucking dead. Right now. So
See, I don't know.
that would have been bad.
I don't know that. I
don't know that either, but I can't rule that. That's a non-zero probability.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I cannot say that group would have beaten somebody like that to death, What I can say is they would have done something humiliating at the very minimum.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
We're talking, like, I can't tell you what it is, but I mean, if you're talking about how, like, Kim Kardashian gets flower bombed for, you know,
Right.
wearing a fur bracelet or some shit, then once these guys get in here, then yeah, they're whoever brought the insurrection eggs would be.
Yeah. You at least give her a healthy swirly or
They
something.
walk into the toilet. Yeah, this is whatever. But I don't think that they would have fucking Mussolini'd
Probably not.
and dragged the bodies through the street.
Yeah, but we don't fully know like who was there, who was involved in that. Like I mean, there's still a lot of speculation there were FBI guys there. So,
Yeah.
I don't find that like easily dismissible. I don't find it like readily believable either.
Yeah, I'm
So,
kind of
yeah.
this is a door that's left open to me. Just certain things when they show the guy that's opening all of the security gates, he's cutting all the chains on these things. Talks to a guy, goes off and does it some more, talks to that guy again, and then they both just disappear and they're not found later. All they've done has opened up the...
Yeah, that's kind of sus.
There's some stuff
Yeah.
where I don't know that's the FBI, but I also don't know why would two... There is some very suspect stuff. And ultimately what I can tell you is, yes, to get back to it, power doesn't transfer because you occupy the building.
No, well, and the same thing was true with power transitioning from Donald Trump. There was a 100% chance that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There is no way. If he showed up on January 7th, or whatever it was, whenever an inauguration day was, I can't remember what. It's usually January 20th, 18th, or 20th, something.
Yeah.
So if he showed up to work on the 21st, said, no, I'm still in charge, he'd be escorted from the building.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They would be like, no, man, there's already a new name on the
Yeah,
board. You
no,
don't
I'm sorry,
work
your
here."
key card doesn't work anymore,
Yeah,
sir.
No, you're absolutely right. And if, for example, if something had turned up where they had uncovered books and books and books of fraud and fraud on top of fraud and actually found out that this was hokey, then they would take the other guy out, but it's not, well, I'm not leaving until you prove to me that it's not fraudulent. It's like,
No, that's not how that works.
That's not how that works.
Yeah. No.
You go, and if there is something fishy, then...
I don't care how many conservatives you have in the Supreme Court, they would not go for that. So, no way. Yeah. And, like, literally when it comes down to it, there's this, like, piece of it that it's just that so many people are, like, frustrated, to go back to the COVID thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, they just want to be mad about something that you just can't let, like, certain things like that go and just kind of call things at face value. And say, like, well, he lost the election. Okay, well, there was fraud. It was like, there better be a lot of fraud. And if there was a lot of fraud, you'd have a hell of a lot easier time than finding it than you are. Okay, and really when he lost, all right? So, and even if he had won these two states where you're calling there's fraud, he still would have lost. So, you're really trying to thread, like, a needle here. This is, like, literally you're down by 10. Okay, and you need two possessions, and you got 38 seconds left. It's possible.
It's like, I haven't checked the scoreboard in a while, but it seemed like you burned a stupid timeout at the beginning of the third quarter.
Yeah, kind of wish you had that now.
Like,
yeah.
Like,
are we under the 2 minute? Yeah.
It's like, you guys just should have taken the delay of game, man.
Right.
It's only 5 yards.
It's only 5 yards.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, I will say, with looking at this, maybe we should police this a little bit harder. And as a matter of fact, we probably should have always been. Now, I would argue that from what I understand of things, historically, our elections are probably cleaner and better than they've ever been, just as time goes by.
Oh, yeah. And way better than just about every place in the world, with the exception of like fucking New Zealand and Iceland and stuff.
Well,
yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well, they're just much smaller countries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You guys are going to count the 10 votes over again.
Right,
and,
yeah. It's like a school board election. It's
no.
It's like, I suppose we can spend the rest of the afternoon doing it again.
No offense to our
No offense.
wide selection of Icelandic listeners. But yeah, so that doesn't mean that you don't go in there and say, like, all right, this may have had some things that were suspect. Make sure you clamp down on this.
Sure.
We don't want this shit happening next time. There's no reason not to do it better.
Well,
right?
and honestly, most of the counties that probably got scorched on this have every incentive to go out there and scrub it down next time, because I guarantee you, like that whole thing in Arizona, Maricopa, that cost them millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Yeah.
now they're like, oh, well, shit, how are we going to make up that budget surplus? Or, I mean, that shortfall now.
Yeah.
All right, well, okay, let's make sure that we squirrel away something, get these machines replaced, because we got another one of these coming up in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's just like, I mean, like the thing that I think a lot of people, and this is what I get frustrated back to Rogan with, and so is that we do actually have a very good self-correcting system. It actually does a really good job of rebalancing itself over the long run, you know, and like any major issues, and the same thing with COVID vaccines and passports and stuff. You know, there are very few problems in America that you can look at and say, well, I bet you it'll be different by Thanksgiving. You know? You know? And I think COVID might be one. So, I don't know. Pardon my optimism on it. I've been a little pessimistic this fall, but, you know, I think if Omicron was actually going to wreck a lot of shit, it probably would have done it by now. So,
I mean, look, it's in the middle of doing it. I mean, it is a relatively new thing, and it is highly contagious, and I do understand that, right? As a matter of fact, it turns out that that's the one I'm more likely to catch right now.
yeah.
Because of my standing, and evidently, I got the Kmart version of inoculations over here. They
Which one did you get? The Moderna?
I got the Pfizer one.
Oh, I got the Pfizer one too.
Yeah, and evidently that one is the fucking weak sauce of.
Oh, see, I thought it was the J&J one that was weak sauce.
Well, at least the J&J one.
That's what Dave Chappelle told me.
Well, at least the J&J one had the benefit of being one. I would have taken that one were it available at all, right?
Yeah.
Just on the sheer grounds of, okay, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's over.
So yeah, there's a point to this where we have to stop. We have to stop looking at half of us as sheep and the other as lepers, right?
Right.
Here was the weird thing. This was
That's a good way to put that.
This is how they see each other as
sheep and lepers.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
like you're the unclean and the
Or you're the extremely gullible. Yeah.
yeah. And again, you talked about how I ended up not identifying with the left, how I call myself a liberal, but I don't identify with the left. And like one of the tenets of classic, liberalism is an innate distrust of government, right?
Yeah.
And I also understand that's
It's distrust of authority. So,
well, well, it's not like our government is really voluntary about a lot of these things, but the whole thing is like, okay, so now that September or January 6th has happened, oh yeah, we need to prosecute the shit out of these people. They're terrorists. We have to inoculate everybody. It's forcibly. It's like, no. You guys are so far off the reservation on this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is anybody who's in the old school camp of this is like, you guys totally missed the boat on this one. But I don't want to.
That whole side of the camp has forked itself off in a couple different weird directions now that just don't really. They're going to spin out and they're going to become irrelevant. I mean, because I think a lot of people think, roughly along the same guidelines as you on this one. I may be a little bit more authoritarian. So, but also at the same point in time, I realize that I still have fundamental ultimate choice. So I don't have a problem with my school mandating. Okay, it's a school; they can do that. I don't give a shit. All right, if I don't like it, I don't have to work here. All right, so I don't really have a problem with that. So on a very fundamental level, because I don't have a problem with them telling everybody, hey, you got to get all these other shots. So whenever you use the toilet around here, you don't give everybody else the fucking clap. So and that's been going on for 20 years. So well, ever since I've been associated with colleges. So you always you always had to get those shots and things. And the same thing, like you got to get your your MMR shots if you're going to go to a public school. It's fine. I work for a public school.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with that. Private employer, yeah, I have a little bit more of a problem with that. But I'm like I've changed in some respects. So like I'm more apt to actually protect the rights of a company now than I am necessarily the workers, like I used to be.
Yeah, that's weird.
It is, but like it came with that realization that companies aren't as powerful as people think they are. They look like it from the outside, but they really aren't that big of a fucking deal. Like Amazon. I mean, when you compare like how much money Amazon makes in a year to what the federal government hauls in every single year, it's nothing. So, and like the same thing with like billionaires. You look at like Elon Musk, who's going to be the world's first trillionaire.
Right.
The United States produces 22 of him a year. It took him a lifetime to make all that money. So, yeah. And so like, I mean, it's just, the economic imbalance, and I've heard this from a couple other people that I trust in terms of economics and things like that, and the whole idea of inequality, it's kind of a red herring. So in a lot of respects, because like if you take a look at like the standard of living in the United States,
yeah,
my fucking cat has better health care than 95% of the goddamn planet. So my middle class, and I make less than median income myself. My wife and I, yeah, we're over. All right. But just me, myself, I make less than median income in the United States. 1 month of my salary will feed a person for an entire year in just about any other economy in the world. Okay. Yeah. So it's nuts, man.
Yeah.
And so like, when we look at something like even Jeff Bezos, whose wealth is getting, I mean, it's definitely making his brain smooth in some respects. It's not going to be his forever. It's going to wash back into the system probably sooner than you think. And the same thing's true with a large multinational company like Amazon. That shit does wash itself back into the system. Yeah. Now we can like talk about like things that actually cause money to jam up in certain places or not get to places where it would actually be of more use.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, like even Lawrence Lessig's argument about like government being captured by businesses, I think it's bullshit now. Okay. So, because really when it comes down to it, if you take a look at the electoral cycle over the last 4 years, all right, Donald Trump is a great big middle finger to that entire premise.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And you know what? I think almost all of the presidents that you and I are going to see for at least a generation are probably going to be along those lines in some respects. I think Joe Biden's probably going to be your last corporate president you're going to see for a little while. Okay. And even he's not even that bad, compared to like Billy Bob or George W.
No, he's not. He's not. He's just not there. And that's...
No, he's not there.
Yeah.
So he's president in absentia. So,
yeah. We've covered that. Yeah, well...
But, like, all right, so if you take a look at, like, what's really important in the cycle, it actually is votes, okay? Because you use money to buy votes, roughly, through advertising campaigns and stuff like that. 50% of the country doesn't fucking vote, okay? Yeah. The other 50% is basically split into two little camps and one great big one that just kind of makes up its mind a couple days before, Or
day of.
Or day of, yeah. Or just does whatever their mom tells them to do, or their friend or something like that. And so, there's like this really little piece that a lot of things actually kind of float on. And none of that has anything to do with that other stuff, And so you can turn around and you say, oh, well, Amazon's this humongous company that needs to be broken up. Same thing with Facebook and stuff like that. Okay, it's really not, it's not in control of as much as you think it is. So,
yes, but
I guess that's my argument.
No, and you do have a good point. There's two fundamental issues I see with that. It doesn't invalidate what you're saying. However, there's two parts of that I have issues with. And the first one, you're right in terms of basically what the government rakes in versus, say, Elon Musk. Like you said, 22 times.
Sure.
for the value of one person. And the argument I have against that is to say that that's what the country takes in, but it is not one monolithic group acting in unison, right? At its fundamental highest level, it is still fractured among party lines, right? But also within that, you're talking about the subdivision of agencies within the United States. So it's unfair for me to compare the monolith of one government against one man, because really they don't act as one bug.
Yeah.
Okay? It's a lot of independent groups sort of tied together.
Yeah.
But these guys answer to these guys don't answer to these guys, et cetera, right? So they have different agendas.
Yeah. I mean, you could make a really good argument that a lot of them just act independently too. So
Well, yeah, and that's sort of where the power of, say, somebody like a Musk has more authority, because if he doesn't have enough to influence the group as a whole because they act together, he would have the ability to influence smaller groups within different regions. Say,
so like, are you
Texas.
talking about like the governments within those regions, or like his suppliers or his employee groups? Like, what kind of groups are you talking about?
Well, we're talking about basically the government agencies that are in most close proximity to him, that he could have the most influence over.
I'm sure you'll find shenanigans on that level.
Everywhere.
Yeah, but it's
Of
not
course.
it's not as bad as like Soviet Russia, or it's certainly not as
Nothing
bad as
is.
like modern day.
Say China.
China's a great example,
disgusting.
or even like a lot of your European countries where like the German government's going to do everything in its power to actually protect Volkswagen. So we saw that happen 5-10 years ago.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
In the United States, I mean, basically the only way we protected General Motors was by buying the motherfucker and then selling it off again later.
Oh yeah,
And that almost didn't happen, And
Yeah.
so, like, the only I can't think of any sacred cow companies in the United States. I mean, you could point to the banks and say that the government will always bail them out. That completely depends on who's in charge at the time, And again, that's dependent upon those small number of votes, And so, if you're really looking for the epicenter of power, and what really, I mean, like, just think of it like if So, like, yeah, Elon Musk is really powerful. Let's just roll this all the way back to 1999. Who's the most powerful man in, American business? Hands down, Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, yeah.
At that point in time. Does all this shit to influence the election, blah, 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 stuff like that. Fucking George W. Bush gets elected. Okay, well, sort of. And then gets, like, basically crowned by the Supreme Court. So we're talking about something that comes down not to a couple 100,000 votes, but 9 fucking people.
Yeah.
Okay, who basically make this decision. And just like for a moment, think about how different shit would be if Al Gore actually been president 9 months later.
Hard to say.
And so,
Really hard to say.
Bill Gates with all his power, money, influence, and all that shit at that point in time didn't amount to a fucking hill of beans. Now that we can look back at it 20 years later, and I don't know. I hope that's not the case with Elon Musk or even Jeff Bezos. I mean, I don't know. I know a couple people who are in Amazon management, and they're telling me that it's not what people say it is. It's not what the news says it is. It's not some kind of fucking modern sweatshop and stuff like that.
No,
They say it's very competitive, and it's a tightly run company. Okay, so it's not necessarily pleasant to work for. It's not cushy.
right.
Okay, but it's stable, and it's those guys are going to have decent retirements in 20 years. You know,
And they're not just retirements; they will have jobs.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, you're talking about the rare thing we could say. Anybody who does their job competently there will be there if they choose.
Yep.
For an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Which we would have been having a much different discussion. We started this little enterprise 3 years ago when we were talking about what it meant to have job security, right?
Oh yeah.
And we would be singing a different tune. Now, this is not me championing the biggest of big businesses.
No.
Right? I wouldn't do that.
I just no, and I don't like the idea of that much business influence concentrated. I think you can make a really good case for actually breaking up Facebook.
I think it has to be done.
I don't think it necessarily has to be done. I don't think it's quite at that point yet. I think that if it gets to that point, it'll become an issue that is again settled, not in some backroom brown envelope kind of deal, but on November 5th somewhere, in some election somewhere that will actually, because I mean, like things like that when they get really that bad. And if we're taking a look at like even last fall, all right, so how much of Joe Biden's election was a referendum on people just being fucking pissed off about the coronavirus? I think you can make a really good case that that's the only reason he's president.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so that's because it was a BFD at the time. It was a very BFD in the fall of 2020.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was not one person in this country who was not affected by COVID in one way or another.
Yeah. And so that you see change happen then.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like not an actual change. Well, I guess it was, but not like anything that produces effective change. It's just like, okay, this is where we're at. And so like a lot of other people, not just within the government, but individuals in business and things like that, they start to align towards that a little bit. It's like, okay, that's the way the wind's blowing right now.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like a weather vane more so than it is actually driving the wind, I don't know. But yeah, like the large companies, I don't think people should be as afraid of them as they are. So they're paper tigers in a lot of respects.
No, you should be terrified of them.
I don't, why?
Well, again, this is...
I don't see like Facebook actually taking away any of our First Amendment freedoms.
Dude, Twitter banned the president.
I get that, all right? But that is like something that is so contentious now that they'll never fucking do that again.
What are you talking about?
I mean, if they had another president on there who was starting to do that shit, and they banned his ass too, people would fucking just ditch Twitter.
Bullshit?
Oh, no, I think absolutely. I think they played their one card. They played a bad hand on it. They know it. Jack Dorsey's out now because of that shit.
No, he's not out because of that shit. And the guy that they brought in is worse.
No, I know that. All right. So the tighter that they squeeze on something like that, the less likely they're going to get their actual outcome that they want, which is to control a narrative. They're not going to fucking get that out of that, man. So they've overplayed their hand. I get it. I know. Like, you can call me being like really stupidly naive, but I want you to like think about this like 2 years from now. All right. Is Twitter actually going to be more or less powerful than it is now? I think it's going to be substantially less powerful than it is now. So just because people are fucking wise to that shit, and they're like, oh, well, you banned the president of the United States. Obviously, you guys are trying to control the narrative. So the half of the country, well, it's not even the half, the quarter of the country that was supporting him at that point in time is done with Twitter.
No, they're not.
Huh?
They're not.
Who isn't?
That group is not done with...
So who's in that group that's like prominent, like, pro-Trumpist who's now railing against Twitter and got banned? So who's in that group?
That have been cleaned out?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Don't ask me to name the names.
Oh, okay.
And, like, these would be people that I wouldn't follow on my fucking...
But are we talking like celebrities or reporters or just Joe Slow or, Joe Blows? Like, what are you talking about?
Okay, so if you're talking about basically people of influence, again, I'm not going to know the individual names on this because, again, these are not people that I would ever turn to my news for. Okay? Do understand that, right? So it's not...
is Ann Coulter still on Twitter?
I have no
If anybody, she would be banned.
And depends on what she said.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
If you got to remember the whole reason that their reasoning for saying that he got banned was because he was supporting the January 6th bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, they said he had some tenuous connection to this, which he didn't. But
I thought it was because of that tweet that he did, like, about Mike Pence failing to do his duty on January 6th.
It had more to do with pressing the issue that there was electoral fraud. And they had said this is a misrepresentation of facts.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you can't prove that. But, okay, well, it's your platform, right? This is the thing. It didn't cause my question here is, if it caused an exodus, there would be a rebirth right now of a competing service, which there is not.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, they did do a pretty good job. Who was it? AWS that squashed, what was the other one? The conservative Twitter.
What
the fuck was it called? Parler.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know though, man. I mean, like,
That's absurd. That's
no, that's
absurd
crazy.
that
Yeah,
they would do that.
I don't.
That's exactly what you should be afraid of.
I get that, but they did it. We all saw it. I don't think they'd get away with it again.
I guarantee you they would.
I doubt
Because
it,
they
man.
didn't take they if they were going to take the heat, they would have taken it at that moment. Man, I can't even tell you like how many bullshit people are on Twitter that violate the community guidelines every single day.
Yeah, but they're nobodies, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Everybody. There's a protection on there where it's like, okay, look, their rules say you can't wish death on anybody.
Okay.
Fuck that. I can go on there right now, find any number of prominent tweeters, and they'll be wishing death, harm, mayhem on anybody for their political beliefs. Okay? But they're blue check marks, so they're not going to get dunked.
Yeah.
Okay? Won't happen.
All right.
The same thing goes with that Amazon bullshit where they're like, well, we're not going to let you host the servers here. That's absurd.
Yeah,
That's so beyond the scale of what you guys should be doing that if it was going to come down, if the hammer was going to come down, it would have happened then.
I don't think so. I think it's going to take another one for them before that hammer actually comes down on them. In some respects, I think they're smart enough that they won't fucking do that again. So, you know, it's just like
The big businesses are playing ball with them. They don't have
all
anything
of
to
them.
lose.
Yeah, but see, not all of them. I mean, you don't see Microsoft doing shit like that.
The hell you don't? What are you? Bill,
What do they do?
dude, Bill Gates
He's not
is-
even associated with Microsoft anymore.
Oh, Microsoft. Okay, so
What did Microsoft do?
Microsoft is 100% on board with that political side.
But they host their own services. Who have they banned?
What do you mean they host their own services?
Well, they do their own web hosting service, don't they?
Well, they have
Aren't they Amazon's major competitor?
no,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no. Microsoft does cloud computing.
I thought
but
that's what
they're not.
AWS was.
No, you're talking. Okay, so cloud computing is basically where your servers do all of the processing.
Oh, okay. So who is Amazon's major competitor in web hosting?
That would be like Cloudflare and
Does Oracle do that?
I don't know. I don't know if Oracle does that, but yeah, like Cloudflare would be a big one,
Okay.
and like GoDaddy and all those. These are the actual
okay, yeah.
domain holders,
Right.
Right. Whereas cloud computing is just their servers do their math.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So that's different.
Uh,
Okay, I didn't know that.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't.
So, but like Amazon, are they still in? I mean, okay, so we can make a case for Amazon actually being engaged in, you know, trying to control the narrative, but where is Microsoft trying to do that?
Microsoft is just very supportive of basically everybody within the big tech industry politically.
Okay.
All right. So right now you're talking about
But are they a big bad like Amazon?
where would I rank them? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. They're not brown shirts or anything. I have no idea. I don't know how to rank these things because I also don't want to necessarily paint that as an evil thing. Okay, from their perspective, they're seeing this as a protectionist, a service, right, to people as a whole, right. Now, whether or not those intentions are misguided, I would say yes. I would be on the front line saying your mission as, you know, support for this stuff is to say, all right, as long as it's not illegal, we host it,
Yeah, but
Right.
I mean, the company's controlled by people who don't share that sentiment.
which is absurd.
Well, not really. I mean, if
That's
they're
absurd.
well, you might think their beliefs are absurd, but the idea that people who hold those beliefs that, you know, have made it that far in that company, I don't find that to be terribly
It's not their
absurd.
business.
Yeah, I get it, you know,
You
but
just, if you have server space, you
yeah, but if you're the person who started that company with Bill Gates at your side and you've grown that from basically your own garden, I think you do have the right to say how it is that that company's going to be run. So
but it has nothing to do with you.
I don't really care. It's mine. I can do what I want with it.
And that's why you have to be broken up.
Okay. All right.
If
That's
you're
a legit argument.
because if you can get to the point where you control the ends of where information can be spread, and you have clearly partisan takes on this. You have to be destroyed.
Well, I don't think you have to be destroyed. I think you have to be counterbalanced. So,
Well, I would argue, all right, so if you ask me, if I had the magic wand to skip a whole bunch of processes, right?
Right.
And say, we're going to implement this in a way that makes sense, then yes, I think we're far overdue from something that would be overreaching in terms of media reform. Okay?
yeah.
And I don't mean this in terms of balance or anything else like that, but right now nobody trusts the media. Okay, you can actually look at the data on this.
It's gotten considerably worse.
It is absurdly low.
Well, it's been a good 15, 20 year down, trend.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes, and I would argue that the trajectory we're on is the one we deserve because we allowed this to happen.
Well, with the media?
Yes,
Yeah.
we allowed
No,
this
I
to
agree.
happen. This was just a series of small bites. Again, it's not an agenda. It's just who's in charge of the company, right?
Well, and it's where's their bread buttered,
Absolutely, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about, like, which sides are corporations on, like, all right, so you have one side that has Chick-fil-A and My Pillow, and everybody else with influence is on the other side, right?
I don't know about that, man. I think more companies, more corporations than you think. I would go as far to say 90% of them are just stone cold neutral. They just want to make their quarterly numbers. Really, when it comes down to it, you might have a few activist organizations out there, but even like Amazon, people take a look at Amazon, like, oh my God, it's such a huge monster of a company, and fucking Walmart's twice as big. You don't see Walmart going out there doing all this shit. That's because they don't care. So they just want to make their quarterly numbers.
I disagree.
Well, there might be a few people on their board here and there and stuff like that.
No, I don't think they fall into that camp. I think they actually fall closer to the other camp. Where
It's possible because they hate unions. So
Well, it's not necessarily hating unions, but it's also part of who is our base.
well, they know where they know where their bread is buttered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, Amazon, like, in some respects, like, even Apple's chilled the fuck out quite a bit. So, compared to where it used to be. And that's because it slowly has become more corporatized. It serves its shareholders. It doesn't serve some kind of, like, social function beyond that. And that's why, like, yeah, they're going to fight with, some Twitch streamers and, some app developers from time to time. Or actually, no, it wasn't a Twitch. What was the thing that they got in it? What was the game?
Oh, you're
Was
talking
that
about
Fortnite?
Well, it was Fortnite. It was
Yeah.
basically it was Apple versus Epic Games.
Epic Games, that's right. And they're the guys who made Fortnite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Never played that.
That's
Yeah. Did you play it?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't care. It's not. I'm not saying this is bad or anything. It's just I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of games are like that. But anyway, back to my point there. So like, yeah, I think 90% of the companies out there are true neutral. You got a couple like flagship companies out there that do weird shit like that. And then you can make, cases of like the NFL or Nike. And so, although Nike got its pee-pee slapped so hard by China, I don't think it'll actually do any of that shit ever again. Unfortunately, So there are some causes out there that probably should be championed a little bit more.
I agree.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I just don't think that. I look at Twitter. I look at their business model. I look at the fact that Dorsey got pushed out and stuff. I just don't think they're really going to be a thing in a
Really
couple of
get
years.
pushed out.
Well, he just gave up and he was like, "Fuck this."
But that's not really a pushed out.
kind of.
And it's not that the pushing out was a reactionary movement where it was saying like you've taken this too far. It's like no, actually you're not going far enough.
No, I mean, he just got to the point in time he's like, I don't want to fucking manage this.
Right.
He's like, there's too much bullshit going on. And I mean, okay, fine. Maybe that's not like anybody shoving him out the door. But when you get the founder of the company to basically toss his hands in the air and say, okay, cash me out. Okay, it's kind of pushing somebody out.
Yes, but he also didn't leave and say, I'm leaving because this site is bullshit.
I don't think he does that. I
Dude,
don't think he's particularly outspoken on a lot of things.
But if he was pushed out, like you're saying,
Yeah.
then that would have been a, hey, F you guys, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm going to, do what I don't make my money here.
I'm not going to make assumptions on that. I don't know. All right. Like he certainly doesn't have like if Elon Musk got pushed out of Tesla, he would scream bloody fucking murder.
100%.
Yeah. And so I just don't see Jack Dorsey being that kind of guy.
And that's why I can't even remotely call it being pushed out.
Fair enough. Yeah. I disagree, but I just don't know. So I'm not going to make a conclusion one way or the other on that one. I think that, honestly, if things were going hunky-dory, he'd probably still be there. So, but maybe not. Maybe he decides that, hey, I'm going to go play with my raviolis instead.
Maybe he is. But all I can tell you is that, yeah, the replacement guy is 10 times worse.
Yeah, we'll see how long he lasts. So wasn't he their chief technical guy or something?
I can't even remember.
Yeah.
I can tell you where he's from.
Where's he from?
Well, South Asia.
Oh, he's from India.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's all I can tell you. I do know
I thought
that
he was a Facebook guy. I can't remember.
all I can tell you
Yeah.
is that he has a long time history of basically not championing, encouraging open speech.
Yeah, I think anybody who pushes against open speech is in for backlash, man. And I'm pretty sure that Twitter's going to be your first one to get it. So, I don't know.
They would have been got.
I don't know about that yet.
Dude, you can't ban anybody higher than the president.
Right. Maybe the Pope.
Wouldn't be as impactful.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Less people vote for the Pope than they do for the president. That's
It's only a
like-
room full of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I just so the more that I've looked at Twitter and the more that I've read about how it's just becoming an echo chamber for the whole thing I was talking about the other day with modern day newsrooms don't actually do reporting anymore. They just check Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And then if somebody who they follow is on something, they'll basically retweet that out, repackage it in a news story and stuff like that. And so and that's just the home of your traditional media, which nobody really fucking pays attention to anymore. And so I would say that Twitter's next in line behind that. So
Yeah, but what's the alternative?
I don't know if there is one. I don't know if there needs to be one, to tell you the truth. So many things are splintering off to the point in time where you can get your news from whatever source you want. You can choose completely who to interact with, basically by either banning or ignoring or, just not engaging in certain things that really, when it comes down to it, I mean, it's almost like people are going to get news through osmosis in the future.
And that's the issue.
Probably. So, but, I mean, what does that say for the future of things like Twitter? I don't think it's very bright for them, Maybe Facebook, but I mean, they're doing this whole position, transition to whatever the fuck Meta is, and I don't even know, most of the people that I know use Facebook, they're not going to be around in 10 years.
No.
So, with a few exceptions here and there, but I mean, even then, social media has broken out into so many different things now that, those big platforms like that, I just don't think they're going to be as influential as they are right now.
It's okay. The problem here is, this is the issue, is you're looking at it from and this is not a strike against you, because you're absolutely right from a business sense, because you're all right, so if we're losing these people and they're splintering off into their, because you have people that are going to be, spending their time on TikTok, and that's great. So you have...
Yeah, that one's a problem too.
Well, it's not really a problem. It's just a question of, there's a segmentation where they're saying, what do people want from their social media, right? And platforms are giving it to them. So places like TikTok, they're like, well, what do you want? It's well, I want a 60-second clip, right, of some dude doing backflips off of trash cans, right? That's what I came to these things. Yep. That's what I came here for. This place is nothing but that. Got it, right?
Yeah.
But the problem here is that what Twitter is becoming, and the people that are on it, okay, that's the issue, because right now I don't want to take a completely communist, look at it, but they kind of control the means of production, right?
Of what?
When
Of
it comes
news,
to
or-
yes, when it comes to spreading of information, right? And
Okay.
and you have to understand, it's not. This is the classic headlines, front page this big, retractions is this big.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you control that angle and you can put out that, okay. And again, I'm not saying this as a cadre of 12 people, touching their fingers together. It's just that this is the circle. This is the circle where this all comes from, right? And if you control that, and that is where the crowd is, then yes, you have an undue amount of influence, even though your customer base isn't there.
Right. I think that's a solid argument.
The same thing goes for Facebook.
Yeah, I guess my argument is just that the influence there is waning. So, it's not waxing anymore. And I think banning Donald Trump and then Zuck, his brain's going to go smooth too soon enough. And that's
He's just a weird guy.
Dude, yeah, I know, but that's really bad for Facebook because he is a majority stakeholder.
Absolutely
And so,
is.
even Musk doesn't fully control Tesla, kind of thing.
He can't.
No, he can't. So, and kudos to that dude for actually paying his fucking taxes. So, yeah. So, I like to talk shit about him. I'm pretty sure he's going to go Howard Hughes on us someday. But at least the motherfucker paid his capital gains.
He absolutely does. And he's willing to go public about it. And
Yeah,
he's
no.
willing to take on stupid people that are willing to try to, for some stupid reason, start a Twitter fight with him.
Well, a lot of people do that.
Fucking Elizabeth Warren, man.
Oh, she's irrelevant. So
dumbass. And there was a time that I kind of liked her, but man, she...
I never liked her as much as I like Bernie.
No, of course not.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, she's definitely the Harvard crowd that, it's just so, and, yeah, she is from Oklahoma, I get it, but she's so ridiculously out of touch with certain things. But anyway, she's irrelevant. Nothing's going to come of that. But yeah, I just, that'll be a problem for Facebook eventually. Zuckerberg. And I don't think they're going to have the influence that they have because people are going to disengage from that shit. And that's where they get their power from, is too many people engage with that. And I think that there's going to be just this great, I don't know, we'll have to see what happens with the economy and stuff like that. But, there's a lot of people in the United States who are still just holding their breath, waiting for the next shoe to drop, whatever that might be.
Yeah, I agree.
But when it doesn't happen, eventually you have to exhale, man. So, and there's no great big shoe that I can see out there. I thought it might be COVID. So, but it seems like that one's petering itself out. It might be inflation, but inflation benefits half the fucking country. So,
Well, look, here's...
It hasn't snowed yet. It might be climate change. I don't know.
Could be.
So,
look,
but
here's this is what we learned 5 years ago, right? So yes, you have this bubble and you have this group of influencers. You have this. One thing that we didn't count on is when people go in the booth and it's just them and it's private, that is all there is to it. And no matter who says what or what the projections are, because at that point they were like, well, this shrieking hag of a woman is projected to win every state clear out by a million votes each. When push came to shove and people got in the booth, they said, I'll show you.
For her. Yeah.
It's like, I'm not telling anybody this. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. So there is a real rubber meets the road sort of thing where, yes, you can propagate this all you want. You can go on here on social media and present this in a way where every 3 out of every 10 people is mid-transitioning to another gender. The other 2 are gay.
Is it 3 out of 10?
Whatever. If you go on there, if you go on Twitter,
On Twitter, yeah.
You're like, this it's like, wow.
Male to female.
Incredible. It's like half this country is waving that ugly blue and pink and white flag.
God, I still have yet to meet a single one. So,
Okay, well, all right. Yeah, they're just people, though. But they're just.
I know,
and
yeah.
I'm not rallying against it, but what I'm saying here is the proportions would make you think that
right.
this is how it goes. But no, this is. When all comes down to is voting days here. You can make every supposition that you want. The polling data didn't tell the story. Nobody called this.
Yeah.
And anybody that did call it is only right 10% of the time. There's nobody out there who's like, called it. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it because I'm always right.
Yeah.
No, it's not like that.
No.
So there is a disconnect between that and the rest of the ground level troops, if you want to call it that. I don't know if it's necessarily a decreasing influence. But what I will say is that in its present form, okay, it is completely antithetical to any of the notions of an open discourse. It is not leading to, it is only reinforcing polarization. And as it stands, when you have people that have that much control, because it's that, let me say it to you this way. Okay, if there were an alternative where, say, there was also, you have Amazon as like your hosting service, right? But also there's a
Non-Azon.
well, not Amazon, and I'm not talking about, but basically this is the U.S. nonpartisan version.
Right.
Right? If you had an alternative that had something like that, no problem. Then you can go in there and say like, oh yeah, no, well, if I want to go on the platform that believes what I believe, great.
Yeah.
But when you have that and you control those ends, because I can tell you, look, if you want me to share stories of boards and stuff that I was on that made significant changes post January 6th, I can tell you about that.
Boards?
Yeah, like
Oh, you mean discussion boards?
yeah, and sites
yeah.
where it was straight up politics half of this got nuked.
Yeah.
Within 4 days afterwards, because it was like, if we don't,
Yeah, we're gonna get nuked.
then we're gonna have it revoked.
Yeah.
Okay, that's insane. That should never happen in this country.
No, I agree.
That's fucking gross.
I agree, but I don't think that like them nuking the ability to do that nukes the demand, and so the demand will always produce a supply in the long run.
There's not.
I doubt that.
not.
I bet you
There's
there's places you can go. So
I can tell you about a site that's basically on its last chance place to be
yeah,
because of this bullshit.
yeah. So they just keep passing around like a football.
They've been shut out.
Yeah, it's shut
Yes.
out. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure you can find examples of that. And yeah, it might actually pinch it off for a year, two. It won't do it forever, so it'll be back.
Didn't happen at all.
I understand that, but shouldn't and didn't are two different things. You
The
know,
fact that it's happening now is an atrocity. It's
I guess.
ridiculous.
So you know, but like, really, I mean, is it going to? Is that fundamentally going to rewrite the hardware of this country? I don't think so. You know,
what do you mean?
well, so like if you look at like if there's something out there that you know provokes an acute response, all right, in like history or economics or whatever realm you want, or politics is one of these things, you know, and so you get this overcorrection at a point in time where yes, we're going to shut all these fucking sites down and fuck free speech and blah 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 and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That doesn't does that fundamentally rewrite the way that people think about it?
Yes.
I don't know about that,
Absolutely
man.
it does.
Do you?
Absolutely
So
it
give me
does.
an example of that. So, you know, that's happened where like, you know, like some kind of social pressure fundamentally rewrote like this base desire to actually discourse in politics. You know, or like something along those lines. I mean, because Really, I mean, okay, so if we choke off like web services to, a few discussion boards that have 100% open free speech policies, okay, at what point in time does that actually kill off the embers of the demand to actually have free speech? I don't think it does. I think it just like makes it like the pressure more so for them. Okay, well, fine, fuck you, Amazon. We're gonna set up our own web hosting thing over here, and maybe it'll start out with 10 fucking people, but eventually it'll be 10 million. Because the demand is not gone at this point in time. The fundamental nature of like people wanting to express themselves freely, the fact that it's baked not just into our history, but into our politics, but into basically all of our law from top to bottom. At what point in time do one of these web hosting services actually take that to like the Supreme Court or sue Amazon, all right, and say like, hey, no, actually you can't do that because it's a violation of free speech. And they say, oh, well, it's not, government controlled speech. Well, actually, yeah, it is because you're the only person who does this. And so essentially you function as a government. That's an outlet too. I mean, so like, I guess I'm a little bit more optimistic in that respect because like, the fact that you're this mad about it means that it's not going away. So, because there are millions of people out there like you, all right? And they're just not going to roll over and say, oh, fuck it, we can't get on anywhere, so obviously my free speech doesn't matter, so I'm not going to do it anymore. Nobody's going to fucking do that. You're not going to do that?
Yeah, they are.
Are you going to do that?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, you can't take that from me in general, right? But the problem here is, okay, what you cannot do, this is the big issue, right? Is what exactly do you do when you cut that off from a big service?
I don't know. I'm not creative enough, and I don't know enough about it to give you an off-the-shelf solution for that.
Okay.
I just have faith that there is a solution. So I'm not only smart enough to figure it out, but, I just, you're expressing this with such passion, and I know that you're not the only person like this. And even I'm, I look at it, I'm a little scared of it. And if I'm a little scared of something, it's scary because most things don't scare me.
No, look, this is not something that I'm afraid of. What? It's something that irritates the shit out of me because I do not like the hijacking of my party to instill basically authoritarian principles.
Oh,
that
you mean the Democrats?
Fucking infuriates me.
Well, don't vote for them. Yeah,
don't.
Yeah, right.
But that being said,
they'll get the hint.
That being said, I'll also flip this around and say, if I don't like the alternatives, I don't vote for them either.
Yeah.
I don't believe in choosing the lesser of two evils. You have to put up somebody that I want to vote for.
Sure.
But to get to my point here is, like you're saying, you can't stop people from feeling that way, right? But what you can do is you can stop people from gathering with that nationally. And that's a problem because I can talk about this with my brother. I can talk about this with you. But when you have other people that are able to organize on a national level, right, that gives them a power that you don't. And that is absolutely something you have no business restricting, right?
Yeah.
But you've done it.
Yeah.
You have done it, and there is no consequence because of that. Well, it's their business. They can do what they want.
Well, I guess my
Absolutely
question, and my point is there's no
Insane.
Consequences yet. So I think that there's natural consequence. I don't think there's any arbitrary consequences, that's for sure. But I think there's natural consequences that are permanently baked into the cake. They were so the day that they banned fucking Donald Trump from Twitter. So that you spilled something in that cake, put it in the oven. It's in there, man. And it's not going to come out the way that they think it is. So that's my argument on this one, because obviously the backlash has done nothing but grow since that's happened. So
Where do you hear it?
Oh, everywhere. So
Where?
We started the podcast with Joe Rogan. That's the best place to start. So there are a million other people out there who listen to that shit every single day and are way into this more than I am.
Totally understand. Yes.
And it's just gotten louder and louder and louder. And you've got more and more people, and you're starting to hear it from more and more people actually in government now. And before that wasn't a thing. So it's, like I said, they spilled something in the cake. It's in there.
No,
So-
it's this is not a new thing, man. Like this is not a new thing. There's been, dude, you cannot tell me that it's within the past, 3 years that you've heard the term liberal media. That's this.
Well, I'm not saying, I'm not arguing that.
No. That's.
I was I arguing that?
I thought you were.
No.
Oh.
No, liberal media has been a thing for media since like the media.
Big media. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I know.
partisanship in media predates the Constitution. So, I mean, it's like normal.
Andrew Jackson famously hated newspapers. So
yeah, one of the guys who signed it became famous by making a newspaper, and then an almanac.
I know. I get it. And look, there are people rich enough to say I'll make my own, with blackjack and hookers. That's
and more gambling. Yeah.
So I do get that. Look, here's a question. All right, so. How does Elon Musk go from darling on the left to hated by the left in a period of 3 years?
The left moved underneath him. That's what happened. It's literally the Reagan thing. So, we're I didn't leave the Republican Party, it left me. And so the same thing kind of happened there too. So, but if you look at it in some respects, so the COVID thing basically baked in some kind of brain worm into people who are on the extremes of both sides. And so they moved even further away.
Oh, they were there before then.
I guess that, but, you can't tell when you're looking from a distance, how far they've moved. All right, but even just with some of the shit that I've seen at my school, there's some folks who fine, I get it. You're this guy, you're the super conservative dude. Who's been here for decades or whatever, and you free trader, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen guys like that move to a full blown. Oh my god, it's you're all sheeple, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah,
and it's okay, where did that come from? And then I've seen the same thing on the left hand side where it's oh my god, make sure don't you dare open the school and we got to shut everything down, blah blah blah.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of thing. Or I've seen a couple of people go completely woke ever since the Ferguson thing. And it's just if you stay in the middle, you can't tell how far somebody's gone until you check on them.
Right.
In some respects. And so I've seen a lot of that. And I kind of think Elon Musk probably feels that way in some respects. I mean, he's probably modified his views a little bit. All right. But I don't know about that. I mean, I think the guy is a South African, for crying out loud.
He is.
He doesn't have the same kind of baked in mentality. I mean, he did come to America because America. So to speak. Yeah. And so but at the same point in time, I don't think he's moved all that much. So in the last couple of years, I think the people who were really in love with him because he was the guy who was going to fucking solve climate change, blah, 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 blah. Well, disproportionately, they're the people who got freaked out by fucking COVID. And so they ran a lot further than he did. And now he's way in the rearview mirror as far as they're concerned.
Well, there's a couple of sticking points when it comes to basically where he stands on this, because yes, there was a time where he was a darling because it was the same people as I can't believe they gave up on NASA, sort of. So he's doing this space thing. Very interested in seeing this hyperloop, solving these societal problems, blah 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 blah.
I think that's kind of silly, but
well, if it worked, that's great. Fine. But also, there's another reason they distinctly hate that guy.
Why is that? Is he rich?
Well, there is that, but they love other rich people.
That's
true. I mean, don't get me wrong. Fucking love the shit out of rich people. No, the biggest issue is what is going on with Starlink.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't checked up on it in a while.
Well, it's being implemented. It's being put out there. And on top of that, this is a service that he has said will not adhere to.
Oh, yeah. Any kind of yeah, no, okay.
And that really pisses people off.
Yeah, I'll bet. Well, it pisses a certain group of people off.
And fuck every last one of them.
Oh, yeah, fine. I'll sign up for Starlink, so I don't care.
So, it's just... And people don't like that. People don't like that they're not restricting ideas.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Let me say it to you this way. All right,
Do you think that problem's getting better or worse?
Much worse.
See, I think it's actually getting better.
Much worse.
So yeah, I guess that's kind of the nexus of our disagreement. So, if you're right, I'll apologize in the future. So, I hope you're not.
Well, what I can tell you, all right. So, the problem here right now, and this is where we have a disagreement, and I totally understand what you're saying here, is basically you're looking at, it seems to me that you think that the pendulum has already hit its apex and it's going to come back the right way, right? My problem here is I haven't seen where that ends yet. I don't see that as stopping, because I'm going to tell you that in terms of certain avenues that we've typically viewed as open spaces of communication, they are ridiculously locked down to the point of look, this is where my piece with, my liberal side absolutely cannot meet the road with the current crop right now, because you should not in any way align yourself with the left if what you're trying to do is decrease freedom of speech. Okay?
Yeah.
You should never. That's like question number one. Is are you trying to place restrictions on this? Do you want people to lose their jobs? Do you want people to only have certain opinions to be in positions of power? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. If you're not championing for the expansion, like.
No, I understand. I understand the whole ACLU doesn't belong in the left anymore and all that stuff. And yes, the left is no longer necessarily associated with civil liberties as much as it is in terms of pushing social issues rather than legal ones. I get it. I'm not dismissing your argument, but at the same point in time, I don't see that as being sustainable over the near term. You see it as being sustainable or as increasing in power.
Well, we started this discussion with vaccine passports. And the fact that these were not laughed out of the room when they were suggested is sort of a bad indicator in terms of that.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're going to last. So I guess we did start it there, and I don't think. I'm not a betting man, because they don't put money on things except for ravioli.
So you are a betting man.
So I am a betting man, yeah.
But
I can't see that as even, well, it's possible. I don't see it as likely next summer. I think it's going to pull the wind out of all their sails, man. So I think they've overplayed their hand.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. But I cannot. That is an assumption based off of it's an extrapolation based off of how you're viewing a potential backlash to a current issue. However, what I'm saying is things like this should have been shot down in their infancy.
No, and I understand that. But the fact that they weren't doesn't mean that they're getting stronger. So
in certain segments.
Sure.
They're getting stronger in certain segments with less and less pull in the media.
Okay.
Which means that, you're talking about, again, I can have this discussion with my neighbor, but I can't have this discussion cross country. You can't organize. We don't need so much insular political talk. Look, this is, again, I took it for a pragmatic reason, but it's the same thing. Like, if I can go back to the Supreme Court cases and say that students were allowed to wear red armbands in support of anti-war movements and say that's freedom of expression, and yet I can't turn around and say being locked out of opportunities because of your opinions on immunization, and I'm going to say that's not a violation of freedom of expression? Absolutely it is. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. This shouldn't have gotten off the ground at all anywhere, because anybody that looks at, we wrote down the shit in terms of what's most important.
I completely buy your argument that it shouldn't have happened.
And you're shutting off people from being able to communicate that on a national stage.
Understand.
That is absurd.
Yes.
And that is something that is not improving, and people don't have the ability to have that communication nationwide.
Yeah.
Because of private enterprise being able to say, well, I get to decide what's on here.
Yeah, I think
Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I think I think the moral argument is well established. I'm not going to contest you on that. It shouldn't have happened. Okay, but I'm just going to make the point that because it did happen, all right, it's going to die. So I think enough people in this country recognize that that was bullshit. All right, and they're gonna like use their considerable power that people in this country have to actually rectify that. And so, yeah, I think the apex, the pendulum, it's nadir, or no, it's nadir is the bottom, right? Apex is the top.
Apex is
the top.
yeah.
I think it's capped out. And I just have a lot of faith in, like, that's my whole point about corporates or corporations, stuff like that. You know, the people in this country are the truly powerful in this country. Okay. And I think they're a little pissed about all the things that you're saying right now. And so, I mean, that's why I'm saying, you know, like, watch for it, because I think you're going to see it's going to start to rapidly get clawed back.
Okay. But if they're pissed about it, Patrick,
Yeah.
this is the proof of the pudding thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if they're pissed about it,
Mm-hmm.
then show me the financial backlash that these companies have been taking for championing these causes.
Yeah, I don't think that's there yet.
They're not.
So, yeah.
They're not taking a beating.
No, and it depends, like, on, well, I don't know about Twitter. So, because they don't really publish their shit. So, nobody really knows how they make fucking money. So, well, I guess you could dive into that.
Oh,
And then Amazon, like, most of its business isn't related to that shit. And so, you know, people don't link the fact that, you know, like, I got banned on Twitter or whatever. Like 4chan got shut down. It's Amazon's fault. So, you know, they'll probably get away with that one in some respects. But it's the political backlash that's going to actually, all those companies, just like the weather vane, are going to, whoa, shit, we got to go back this way. And then, you know, you're not going to see a president get banned off Twitter again. So, yeah.
I have no possible reason to think that, because they've already done it and didn't suffer consequences.
Yeah.
They did that.
Yeah. I don't think they'll do it again.
I'm telling you, as I said, there is no higher person.
Especially if he gets elected again. They
There's
won't do it.
no higher person that they can kick off.
Yeah.
And they didn't
Yeah.
have the biggest walkout of their lives.
Yeah. No.
It didn't happen.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm more optimistic about that one. And so
I get it, but
Yeah.
the evidence right now, based off of that, just, I mean, it doesn't support that.
fair enough. Yeah. So, but I'm gonna, yeah, I think I'm gonna keep my eyes peeled. So I would encourage you to do the same, and just see.
That's all I have, man. It's just-
That's all you got is time. Well, stay off Twitter, man.
Look, I don't want to be there.
Yeah, it's bad for you. So
I don't hang out there. That's not.
it's America's barf bag.
No, that's yeah. So, I guess that's where I am with that. Patriots lost.
Patriots did lose.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that though.
Yeah, Will's picks were actually pretty good. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I guess, after 16 weeks.
God damn, was it week 16?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, I guess after 16 weeks, the dust sort of settles and he can make some picks. But I think all the people who are down about 50 grand on their sports books right now as a result of
COVID.
William the Greek are
Yeah.
probably a little bit furious.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Football's been a weird year. So
Well, it's been a weird year. However, I have found a very, very optimistic future with the Patriots as I see them. I think they have the components that they have to build their new legacy. Because as I said, like, I was actually waiting to see what I've said this many times. I'm waiting to see what the next era is, in the Patriots thing, because there is the last of the Brady Roethlisberger, generation has to go, right?
Yeah, it does.
I don't mean that in a negative way, and I'm not saying that I hate these guys, but it's like that era needs to end so we can see the next thing, and
yeah, the 2000 to 2020 era.
Yeah.
So, because fucking Roethlisberger's been around just as long.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, because once the the Mannings and all that other stuff started petering out,
Yeah.
Drew Brees, that
Drew Brees.
and Aaron Rodgers is on the tail end of that.
Oh, but he'll go out kicking and screaming like the baby he is. So
You don't have my brother to fight. This is sort of like, take that, William.
oh, sorry, buddy.
He's not here. Say what you want, but
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I'm waiting for that era to be over, and I'm actually very excited for what they have on the team there. Like, this is cool shit for me.
Yeah.
I like the new guys.
No, they look pretty promising. So I just got to get rid of Fangio, and then I'll start getting optimistic about the Broncos here. So it's like Butterfingers,
Talk about that guy.
I can't do it either without actually like really going down to dark paths as far as like eating sausages and
I know.
massive quantities and putting cheese whiz on everything.
Why is there so much hair in the steak?
Yeah. Have you seen yourself? So you're gonna blame your wife, huh?
Yeah, right.
That's okay. Yeah.
He uses too much butter in the cooking.
Now
I shouldn't be that mean and rough on him, but there's just nothing impressive about him as a coach.
because he's winning like crazy. Yeah, and that's
Right. Okay. So yeah.
there's a certain amount of I don't know how to describe them, like an idiom American that you can excuse when you're winning, when it's just kind of like you have a guy whose principle is based on his mentality is based on dumb platitudes where everything you ask him is going to be funneled through.
You got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Yeah. You got
just break out your dumbest.
early bird gets the worm. Can't, never could.
Like every question you ask him is going to be answered with some kind of dumbass platitude.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's okay. We only got 2 more weeks? It's 18 weeks now, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's new.
Yeah.
Didn't it? I thought it was 16 weeks.
It used to be
before.
16. Yeah, actually, there might only be 1 more week because you get 16 in the bye. I can't remember. They always have to fucking change shit. So.
Well, I remember that. So the perfect season used to be 16-0.
Right. So you
is
play
it now
17.
17?
Well, no, it's always been 17 because you
17
bye.
weeks, but yeah, you play 17 games, so that would be 18 weeks then.
No.
Yeah, it would be 17 weeks because everybody plays 16 games.
And it has a bye, so it'd be 17 weeks long, but
Right.
a perfect season would be 16-0.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
okay.
So the season would be 18 weeks if it's a game longer.
Oh yeah, if it's game longer.
Yeah. I think it is.
I think you're right.
I think
yeah.
it is.
I don't know, man. They'll change it again soon enough.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably. Next thing you know, we're gonna have like games every night of the week, so half of them will be in fucking England. Or
That
whatever.
doesn't seem to have taken off.
Oh yeah, well not not since 2019.
No, there's that, but also
Wah, wah.
there's also this aspect of I don't know if I've necessarily agreed with this policy, but I can't argue against it. Is teams like Jacksonville keep playing in London, and when you keep sending inferior product overseas, like so, there was this. They used to say this here, like if you went into the deepest part of sub-Saharan Africa, they would know who Santa Claus, Michael Jackson, and Michael Jordan.
Sure.
Okay, so if you're in sub-Saharan Africa and a basketball game is being played in your country, and it's just some guys,
Well, LeBron might be playing. Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
is when you send Jacksonville, it's just some guys.
Right.
I don't know if you're going to get the full on board thing, but if you sent it and Michael Jordan was playing,
Or Tom Brady. Yeah, good point.
So I don't know if I
don't know. They'll figure out a way to spread it around and get the ratings one way or another.
maybe
It's
they
the
don't
only thing
deserve
left on fucking TV.
Oh, maybe they don't deserve it. Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't deserve
look,
it. Yeah.
You've been talking this business about the waning power of corporations and stuff like that. Look, baseball got theirs.
Basketball definitely got theirs. Yeah.
Hockey really thought that they were hot shit, and man, did they pay the price.
Yep.
And is football going to get theirs?
Football's probably next,
Football
man.
has to get theirs.
Yeah, football has to get theirs. So they're due. So
Football, like all things, is going to lose its place to titty streamers on Twitch.
yeah. Football needs to do a better job of recruiting 14-year-olds. So they have pretty steep competition right now.
And you know whose fault it is?
Twitch is
Colin Kaepernick.
Colin Kaepernick. Okay, we'll end on that. Yeah.
I'm Jeffrey.
I'm Pat. You're
This
gonna
has been-
you're gonna end it on that note.
has
You're
been-
gonna literally blame it on Colin Kaepernick in the last second of the podcast.
This has been Talking Before Bed. Patrick, hit the button.
I'm hitting the button.